Hi, I'm Alison Sepanera.
And I'm Taylor.
And we're the hosts of the Anxiety Chicks podcast, where we dive deep into the reality of anxiety, nutrition, and mental health.
Listen as we explore all things anxiety healing while keeping it real, including our own struggles with mental health.
We'll bring our expertise as healing professionals to the conversation while discussing the tools and strategies you need to heal the anxious mind.
Listen to the Anxiety Chicks on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Anxiety Chicks podcast. I'm Alison Sepanera.
And I'm Taylor.
And we're so excited to be back with you guys this week. We hope that you've all been doing well. How are you, Taylor?
I am doing well. This week's a good week. I have really found balance in life, really working. I know I've been talking about that, and I know we did our update episode, which if you haven't listened to that, if you're curious on an update on our lives, we did that about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and it's a really good one. Just where we're at in this 2025 season and the things we want out of life and all that. So it's a really good one if you're curious on any updates with our life.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I was just going to say, I love your hat that says pickle. I'm sure it's for pickleball.
It's Pickler. So
I
it's
play
Pickler.
The Pickler.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's upside down. That's why I can't see. I didn't read it.
It's an indoor facility. They're actually all around the USA. If you have a Pickler near you and you want to get involved in Pickler, it's the best facility.
Oh my gosh, for sure. Do you know if they have them in Philly?
I would assume. I mean, they're in every state. Here, while you chat, I'll look it up for you.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I just piggybacking off of the pickleball thing. I actually haven't done it since like last spring, so I'm pretty rusty, but I really want to. This is good timing because I really want to look for somewhere to play. I don't have many like people that play around me, honestly, that I can just say, let's go hit the ball or something. I just don't have people that do it.
That's why these facilities are awesome. Because like a lifetime, it's like people who are just working out who maybe just go down there, which is where I started. But I really like the Pickler because like people go there because they want to play pickleball. And there's a lot of like, you can sign up for the league and meet people, or you can go to the open play. Like there's a whole schedule and you can just click what you want to go to. Like you get 4 free clinics, you get free leagues, free tournaments.
That's awesome.
So it looks like where you are, Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
And then Newtown.
Yeah.
And then
that's
Broome Mall.
Yeah. I think probably Broome Mall's probably the closest, but all of them, I know where they are. Okay. Thanks for letting me know.
Wow. Your Broome Mall location has 15 courts. Mine only has 9. That's probably a cool location then.
No, pickleball's crazy around here.
15 courts? Wow.
Like, crazy.
I'm not that
good though. Like, are there people that aren't that
Doesn't
good?
Matter. Yes. Dude, that's the thing about pickleball. It's like, I feel like it's such a life-changing thing for so many people who maybe feel like, okay, I'm not in this, like, this will also lead into our topic. I'm not into going to the bars anymore. I'm home a lot. I work from home. I don't go to a corporate job. Where am I supposed to meet and mingle with people? And I feel like a lot of times that's where people isolate the most, especially in this world we live in. I feel like when you stop the bars, where do you go? And so I feel like pickleball is just like, it's so easy entry level. Anybody can play. It's like tennis. You can't just go pick up a tennis racket and a tennis ball and serve, Trust me, I've tried.
Right.
Like tennis isn't just an easy entry level sport where I feel like pickleball, I mean, even my mom does, like it did. Well, she did it. She got hurt. But I feel like it's something your mom, your grandma, anybody can just go do.
Totally. Yeah. Well, maybe we should just get into the topic too, because I was just thinking that if they had pickleball when I was in my depths of like drinking, I bet you it would have been different for me, because I will say that I did play on a kickball league in Philly when I was working in Philly, but it kind of all revolved around drinking.
Like pickleball, you can't be drinking.
I know.
You can't be heavy drinking. I mean, you could have like a beer or wine or a seltzer or something, but I feel like it would take away from that overdoing drinking like you do at the bar. I feel like if you were playing pickleball, you couldn't. Yeah.
No, you're actually like exercising when you play pickleball. You're moving your body a lot. I mean, with kickball, we literally would just go up and kick the ball for like 5 minutes if we even made it on the base, and then we just go wait and drink on the sidelines. So, okay, so let's get into it. We're talking about hangover anxiety today, okay? And I kind of really wanted to do this topic more. Taylor, I know you don't even drink, right? So,
Yeah, like when you were explaining your stories, I really thought about it. And I'm like, right when I started developing really bad anxiety is when I canceled all the drinking. I just like couldn't even mentally do it anymore. I had so much, it was so bad that I never actually experienced hangover anxiety because right when it got really bad for me, I never touched it again.
I mean, it's so smart. I also think there's something about the generation now for people your age. Like, there's so much more awareness now of the,
Yeah.
dangers of alcohol. And there's not like the sober movement is so huge now, which is amazing. I think about that too. That if there was a sober movement back in, the early 2000s, it would have like saved me from a lot of things.
Not to say
So
I didn't do my fair share of drinking in college. Let me start there. I did
yes.
my fair, but I just was so naive to life and like mental health that I don't even know if I knew what I was experiencing. I probably was experiencing hangover anxiety and depression, but I was just so in my own world and drinking a lot though.
Well, that's kind of where I started telling you when we were on the live about when I could feel myself starting to kind of like feel really, really anxious after the drinking was in college. It is such the norm in college for so many people. I mean,
When did you
the,
start
the
drinking?
binge drinking. So, honestly, in eighth grade,
What? Like drinking, drinking?
no,
Okay.
no. So, a lot of people around me and in our school, eighth grade, like we went to a party and someone had like a water bottle of vodka. You know what I mean? And we were
Yeah.
passing it around to each other. There wasn't like a case of beer there, but also, so freshman year in high school was really my first exposure to like going to parties because we'd go to
Yes.
parties with kids that were seniors and stuff, and there was
Mhm.
alcohol there.
I was too.
So yeah, so high school really, but 8th grade, I remember people still doing it
And
around
you
me. I
just
was not.
wanted to fit in so bad. So when that bottle was being passed around, you're like, I gotta be cool, so I have to drink it, you know?
I mean,
How were
and
your parents with all that?
well, it's funny because my parents loved having people over. We're the
Mhm.
big Italian family. Like they loved having all of my friends used to come to my house all the time. They didn't even know who was coming and going. They would be like, "Hi," and they would see. But they were so like, we thought that they weren't watching, but then when we would do something, my dad would come out of nowhere and start, like, freaking out and, like, grabbing all of the beer like, we never really drank at my so I was known actually for having the best sober parties in my neighborhood because it would be so fun, and some people would try and get into my house with some alcohol, and my dad would literally take it. My mom was telling me the story the other day that some guy came into one of my parties in, like, high school to the house and he like had a case of beer under like his jacket. And like it was so stupid. My dad's like, "Oh, what's that, buddy? What you got there?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's just my mom and dad told me it was fine that I could bring it, that I could have it." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Why don't you just come with me? We'll call your mom and dad real quick and just let them just double check." And they're like, "Oh no!" And then they would run away. So my dad, this is just the funniest stories because some of my friends now still talk about this. How my dad would confiscate all of the alcohol. Like he would be there and he would be confiscating everything he would see, but he still wanted us to have fun. So the person could either leave or they could stay without the alcohol. And my literally a week later, I would see my dad drinking the Yingling, like which is a beer, and drinking the beer. And I'm like, Dad, was that Brian's beer that he brought? And my dad's like, yeah, it was his fault. Now I get to drink it. So my dad would be drinking the beer.
Your dad's like, "What's on the menu this week?"
No, it was so funny, and he'd, like,
Oh,
hand it to
that's
the neighbors.
funny.
He's like, "Oh, yeah, I one of Allie's guy friends, like, they got in trouble, so I just took his beer." Like, oh my god.
That's so
So,
funny.
that's kind
But
of
were
the
your
way
parents aware that you would go to other houses and there would be alcohol?
so my friends and I actually didn't really get into, like, drinking until we were, like, juniors or seniors in high school.
Okay.
And I don't even mean, like, binging drinking, like, I didn't even start doing that till, like, college. But when they knew that things were happening. And, I think that we just had an understanding that they knew that I was a responsible, kid. And they always said, the biggest thing that they always said was, If anything's going on at these parties and you feel really unsafe and you feel like there's someone you don't want to get into a car with, or you can't drive and you know that, call us and we will pick you up. You will not be in
I
trouble.
I think that's so important. I
Yeah,
think that's so amazing for your parents to lay their pride and ego down of wanting to be a quote unquote good parent. I think you put your kid up for serious risk because I think I've talked about this before how I went to college and the first year you have these kids who are in private school. Like this one girl was in an all girls school. She goes to a fraternity party. She gets the ambulance called on her and the party shut down because she's projectile throwing up down the hallway. And it was because her parents were so overbearing that when she got her first sense of freedom, it was a free for all. Whereas I
totally.
think that there's these parents in high school that are like, hey, buddy, listen, I don't want you to do this. It's not good for you. You're not going to feel good. But if you do it, you can call me. Don't get in a weird car. Don't drive.
Yes,
I never felt comfortable with
100%.
my parents, so I did drive.
Oh my gosh. See, so that's the thing. And I think also, like within my family, alcohol was very much a way of life. Like as an Italian American family, wine was flowing every night at dinner.
Mhm.
A lot of my relatives and extended family definitely struggled with some alcohol, and I just was around all the time in
Yeah.
every different family event. It was just always
Just
around.
culturally,
It was just
it's just how it
culturally.
is. Yeah.
So, like, my parents knew that my parents were not stupid, but they wanted to make sure that I was safe. So anytime they were like, "We're not gonna have secrets, you just whatever." Now, there were times that I definitely got in trouble in high school because they did catch me, like, drinking and sneaking out a couple times. Not good. That's another episode for a different day. But as I got into college, and that was kind of quote unquote free for all, right? You are away from your family. You literally don't have anyone telling you no. It can be really a really, really bad slippery slope. And so I now listen, you got if you guys have been listening, this is like 200 episode 210 or something. I don't know. So anyone that's been listening since the beginning, you know that I always talk about how I can recognize I struggle with anxiety since I was a child. Right. It just really wasn't, we weren't educated on it. My parents weren't really educated on anxiety. Like, no one really knew what it was to look for as a child. That's someone who has anxiety. I also think I had some ADHD. So I never really learned as a child how to soothe myself. I didn't learn any of the tools that I have now that I'm teaching children and my niece and nephew now. And so as I grew up and learning that I was a very sensitive kid, and a lot of times I felt like I was too much because I had big emotions. I didn't know really how else when I started growing into my adult brain how to handle that stuff as an adult. I had no idea when I was feeling sad or scared, or I had social anxiety. So when I was really nervous, when I went to college and I was out at parties and like, I had lost about 30 to 35 pounds senior year in high school from Weight Watchers. Love Weight Watchers. Plug it, go do it. Um, I started getting attention from guys, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," I didn't know what to do with that. They were coming to talk to me, and oh my gosh, and it was exciting, but I was also so scared. So the only thing that helped at that time was to drink. So I drank a lot in college. I would black out a lot. I made some choices I wasn't proud of, and it all we talked about this
What do
before.
you think led to like the I always wonder this, like what led to you always blacking out? Like why would you get to that point? Did you just not realize you were going there or you wanted to go there?
So sometimes you'd go into you and your like five friends would be getting ready, and then like you'd be taking shots, and your whole goal was to black out that night. Like that's just what it was sometimes, to be completely honest. And I don't know, maybe it was because everyone thought it was cool. I have no idea, but definitely
Yeah.
that was a goal for a lot of times. You're just like, I'm getting so effed up tonight. And then like,
Did you feel good? Do you even remember those nights like when you would drink like that?
no, so here's where the hangxiety comes to play. Okay, so this is where we're going to get into the depths of actual hangxiety, because it actually means a lot of different things for different people. But the one constant is like, if you are someone that blacks out and you lose control when you're drinking and you brown out, even if you brown out, when you wake up in the morning, there's so much like unknown of what you did. So a lot of times there's a lot of shame about what you did. There's a lot of times you feel so guilty for continuing to do that. So you
Mhm.
hate yourself because you're not sure of like what happened. And there's just so much like there's also physically biological anxiety, right? Like I said before in the live, you're withdrawing from this drug. Alcohol's a
Yeah.
drug. So like you're literally withdrawing from this drug. So people always will say to me, they get confused, right? Because people that I work with and that I talk to are so confused by the sense that, well, I don't understand why you're talking about anxiety and how alcohol gives you anxiety, because when I drink it, I feel amazing. It like makes
Mm.
everything go away. I feel so good and it's actually helps me. And then I say, okay, well, how do you feel when you're coming off of it the next day? And they're like, oh, it's terrible. I'm like so anxious. I feel like that's why people are like, I need another beer the next morning to make me like feel
Mhm.
regulated, which completely unhealthy. So, and the reason that happens is biologically, I mean, you're literally having a withdrawal from the substance, which is
Yeah.
totally messing with all of your brain chemicals, right? So your brain is not functioning the right way. Your like reaction time, you're so reactive because your brain doesn't have the time to stop and recognize like you're actually safe, right? You're not even less rational than even when you're not drinking. Even if you're an anxious person, you're already not a rational person. Your like
Yeah.
brain is constantly telling you like things are horrible. So that is where the layers of anxiety happen, is the aftermath of it, right?
So I'm curious, would people say like, Allison, you're like the sloppy drunk or the like there's people who get super funny when they're blackout, right? There's people who are the emotional one, who are just crying at the bar. There's people who do really bad things when they black out. There's the non-functioning person, and then there's the, just
There's
out of
like that. I
control.
was gonna say the person that gets really angry,
Yeah, the
that's a
angry
scary
person.
drunk person. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's all types of like blackout drunk people. Like some people can get blackout drunk and they're hilarious. And you know what? I envy that because I was the person when I would get blackout, nobody was home. I I was like so down and like not fun. That's just the thing. I think that's why I quit drinking too, is because like it didn't add to my life. Like I know it's really hard for people who get drunk and they're hilarious and like people love it. People love being around them when they're drunk. You can think of like some of those people when they're
Yeah.
drunk, it's just hilarious and they're
Yeah. Yeah.
dancing, they're doing funny
Yeah.
stuff. I was never that person. I was the person who like I don't even know. Like I would have to be carried. It was a non-functioning, like, I was adding no substance to our night out. Like, I was just sloppy, falling, nothing made sense. Like,
And how did you feel the next day?
back then, I mean, like, I was so young because I stopped drinking at 21. So I feel like when I was drinking like a bottle of wine randomly on like a school night, I would have a horrible headache the next day. And
Mm.
I think I felt just like down, depleted, like it was worthless. I never felt, it was always depression. It was never like, I don't remember anxiety back then. But then I'd also wake up after drinking a lot and pop an Adderall, pop a Vyvanse, and whoop, you do the upper, right? Drinking's the downer, wake up, you take your upper, and that's what so many college kids do.
Yeah.
And that's when my nervous system was like, no more. We're not doing this anymore.
Oh my
Like, you're
gosh.
done.
No, 100%. You're just replacing one drug with another.
Exactly.
Like that's
Exactly.
not gonna get you.
Because
Yeah.
you would take the Adderall and the Vyvanse and you'd feel great. And that's what
Mhm.
so many kids do.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then just enough chemistry in your brain and you're going to enter a mental breakdown at some point.
No, it's so scary. It can be so scary. Like anybody watching or listening, just keep on keeping on listening, because we're going to have some tips for you on what you can do to kind of move through, maybe if you are thinking about like dialing it down a little bit, how you can manage your alcohol in a healthy way and enjoy maybe a drink or two, and then also feel like your body's not about to crawl out of its skin. So stay tuned for that. We'll get to that in like 10 minutes or so. But anyway,
Wait, so
so
what kind of drunk were you? Like, what would people
okay,
say about
right.
you?
So guess what? I had a name for it within my group of friends.
Oh, no.
They would call me Pity Party Alley, because
Oh,
Pity Party Alley, because I would cry all the time. I would reach my breaking point and I would cry all the time. And if that didn't tell you something, guess what I would cry about every single time? What do you think? Knowing like what I went through in like my 20s.
Being enough,
How so,
being
though?
wanted.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, feeling rejected, feeling like
Yeah.
everyone around me was so great and pretty, and I was disgusting, and no one ever liked me, like, I was not enough. Now, I didn't have that language back then. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
say, "I'm not enough." I was saying, like, "Ew, I'm so effing gross, like, you guys are such a," and that I would actually get not mean, but I'd be like, they would call me Pity Party Alley, and I'd be like, "Okay, shut the F up. Like, you guys just don't struggle with anything." I'd get, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
people would be making fun of me, and I'm like, "Why are you making fun of me?" Anyway,
Well, and then you throw in the other component of you struggled with disordered eating. So I'm sure you'd be like, okay, tonight we're going to the party, so I can't eat all day. I need to keep my sodium low. I need to eat this one packet of tuna for breakfast. And then you wonder why you're so blackout drunk
I
at
mean,
two
I'm not
shots
even
in.
kidding, 100%, and do you know what's
Yeah.
sad? So many of my girlfriends were the same way with
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
Like, we wanted to be, like, rail thin, and we wanted to black out anyway, so who cares? If we're not
That was
eating,
like
who cares?
especially the Nicole Richard, no, what was it?
Oh,
Nicole in
Paris.
Paris.
Yeah.
That was like that
Yes.
whole, the like
Oh
low
my god.
rise jeans. They're all rail thin,
We wanted to
doing
look like
coke.
them. That was the entire so that time, whenever what age you were that, but that was, like, early 2000s, that was exactly when I was in
That was
college and
your
going into
college.
my
Yeah.
20s.
The big paparazzi
Yes.
tabloids.
Everyone
Yeah.
going to the clubs. I mean, we went to the clubs all the time. We had bottles,
Mhm.
popping bottles like you thought you were the best thing and so fancy. All we wanted to be, there was no really social media. So all we wanted to be was like what they call socialites. Everyone wanted to be a socialite.
Yeah.
And one of my girlfriends, when I had graduated college at that point, she had moved to New York City. So all of us were going to and my sister lived in New York City. And of course, New York City is like the place,
Mhm.
where like Paris, like everyone. So all of us just wanted that lifestyle. Like
Mhm.
it was so like, I mean, I'm trying to think of who I even hang out with still, which not a lot of people at all that I used to hang out with at that time. And I just remember that, like, the anxiety that I would get. First of all, I'd cry when I was wasted. And then I would wake up, and the first thing I said a couple minutes ago was like, a lot of times people feel ashamed. So many times I felt ashamed of the choices that I made. I mean, I those memories, it took me so long to like not hate myself for like hooking up with lots of
Mhm.
different guys, not remembering like what I did, not
Well,
remembering
and
what
I
their
think
names were.
probably a part of you felt taken advantage of. And some, if you look back, I think a lot of women, they haven't been quote unquote RAPED, but I think a lot of women, and I saw it a lot in college, were just, I had this one friend and it was just so sad to me. She was totally taken advantage of on multiple occasions. And it's like, bruh, she is so drunk. Like, I'm questioning your, like that's weird, bro. Like, she is unable to function. And I remember like having to like yell at this one guy. I was like, my friend can't even walk. Like, what are you doing? Like,
I'm
yeah.
shaking my head if you guys are watching, not watching YouTube, because that was literally my girlfriends and I talk about this all the time. And I think some of us are like desensitized to it at this point because it's been so long. But
Yeah.
it affected me a lot more. Every single girl in my friend group that we used to hang out with, like that I'm still close with from high school, even, we talk about that all the time. And we're like, like all of this happened to us, right? Like, we went to fraternities all the time. Like, the reason why people started talking about this and raising awareness about, like, Me
It
Too
was
and all of that.
normalized.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, there's no
Like, guys
way
thought
back
they were
then
cool. Like, yeah.
there's no way back then that I ever would have been like, "My God, nothing." Like, oh my gosh, yeah, I was taken advantage of. There was no way I would have ever admitted that back then. I never
Right.
would have believed it. I never would have
Because
thought it.
in your head, you told yourself, like, I got drunk and I did that and I was the problem.
Yeah, I
When it's
wanted
like,
to.
no,
I wanted
right.
to. I was
I
wasted.
wanted
I
to
was,
do
like,
that.
totally
Yeah.
hooking up with him, and I wanted to, whatever, who cares?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
there are stories that, are really, really dark. I think that
Mhm.
saying them now, that I mean, I'll tell one story, okay. Maybe this is like a coping mechanism, but my friends and I talk about this still, and it's like
I
it's
think it takes the
it's
power
funny.
away,
Yeah,
you know?
maybe it takes the power away. Still to this day, I don't know what happened to me.
the scary part.
but I don't even know what happened to me, which is the scary part. But I can say that thank God I didn't have any diseases, right? I went to the doctor all the time and all that stuff. So we were down the shore. I told you a lot about how this shore lifestyle. So if you guys have watched Jersey Shore, that was the environment that I basically was in all of my 20s. A lot of
Wait,
my
can I
friends.
pause you there? Can we also talk about how, okay, you said you were in the Jersey Shore area. The Jersey Shore show itself really glamorized and normalized hookup culture of getting just absolutely wasted. Polly didn't know who was at the house. Sam was, yeah, you know what I mean? They made it look cool and like
100%.
normal. And yeah,
That was that. I'm not even the 100%. That was literally what me and a group, except we were a group of 20 people. We would rent a house down in Avalon, New Jersey, which is definitely different than Seaside Heights. Avalon and like Stone Harbor and Sea Isle are very nice, big houses. A lot of us had it was more of like a summer house on Bravo situation. It wasn't as rich as the Hamptons, but it was definitely more like a summer house. But the way we behaved and acted was more like Jersey Shore. I mean, we would go to this one bar, the Princeton in Avalon, and we would black out. And we would start Thursday when most people took off Fridays. Some people were down the whole summer. We would rent one house and we'd all split the rent. And most of us would come down on the weekends. We would start Thursday or Friday, happy hour, come home, change, pregame, like go to the bar till 2 a.m. and then late night until like 6 a.m. And then we'd pass out for a little, wake up at like 12 and start drinking. And
yeah.
then we go to happy hour and go out that night. And then Sunday, we would drink all day, Sunday fun day. And then maybe we'd wake up at 6 a.m. Monday and go home and work like every weekend. And so there was one time where I had a night and I woke up in a bed the next day. No one was next to me.
At your house,
No, this was a house that, not even a house that we rented. I don't know where I was. It was
not even a
probably,
house that you even knew.
no, I
Wow.
had no idea. But I will say, at this time, when like a lot of, if anybody's listening, that was at this time from like the year probably like 2006 to 2011 or so was like when everyone had group houses in Avalon. All the group houses like knew each other. The town of
Okay.
Avalon was very kind of small and very safe. And so a lot of the group houses all knew each other. We were all from like the Philly area. A lot of us like met each other when we were out. So a lot of the guy groups and the girl groups, we all like knew each other. So like there's a chance that where I was, like someone there knew who I was. So I wasn't like ever waking up being like, oh my gosh, am I, an hour away? Like that wouldn't
Okay.
happen. I would
Yeah.
know I would be able to like walk home, right? It would be probably like 5 blocks or something. So I woke up. I had no idea where I was. I was in a bed by myself. It was a twin bed. I don't remember like where, like, I think my clothes were not there. And I hear two people talking outside the bedroom. And I'm like, oh my God, what? And it's two women. And so at this point, I'm like 26 years old or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God, there's two women here. And I have to come out of this room. And also, sorry, but we didn't have cell phones. Okay.
Right.
Back then. There were not cell phones that I had actually that like texted or anything until like 2008, maybe. I don't know. I had my own phone. So maybe some people had like Blackberries. I don't know, but I didn't have a phone. So I was like, holy shit, I have to leave this room. I mean, talk about like anxiety.
Yeah.
To leave this room. I'm like looking for my purse. I'm looking for my stuff. I find some of my things and I literally go outside and I see these two women and I'm so hungover. I literally feel like I'm going to die. And I go, I'm like, they look at me and they're like, hi. And I literally feel like, I mean, I think about this now and I'm so detached from this person, but I was ashamed of her for so long, of myself. But I basically said to this one girl, I was like, hi, I'm so sorry. I'm not really sure like where I am. What street are we on? And they're like, 28th Street. And I said, okay, do you think that do you guys have a phone? Do you think I could borrow like your phone just to talk to a friend, to like text one of my friends to come get me? And they're like, who are you like with? I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I mean, they actually were really nice because believe it or not, this happened all the time down the shore.
Yeah.
People would wake up in different people's houses, and it was just the norm. We'd
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, who's there now?" Our one of our roommates, passed out at this one house, and we didn't know, whatever. So I just remember sitting on the bed. I couldn't find my shoes. I think I left my shoes there. And I was trying to figure out phone numbers. I didn't remember phone numbers. I was like, okay, what is this?
Oh,
I think I remembered my one friend's phone number and they answered. And I was like, can you come pick me up? I'm so sorry. And they're like, where are you? What's going on? I'm like, what's your address? And they're like, it's 28, blah, 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 Dune Drive. I'm like, yeah, can you like, please just come get me, please? Like, and they're like, yes, we'll be right there. It's fine. And my one friend who came and got me still talks about the story. She's like, remember when I picked you up from that house and yours? I'm like, I still don't know who that person was. Still have no idea who the guy was. I can't even, I was so hungover still and didn't even know what I was doing that I don't even know what house it was. And I just remember like that story epitomizes like the choices that I made every day and talk about
yeah.
anxiety. I went through situations like that made me feel so ashamed of myself. And like the only thing that I knew that helped me at that point was to numb myself again. So I would
Yeah.
go to the house, people would make fun of me. I'd make fun of myself and I'd be like, oh
Yep.
my God, I know I'm such a whore, whatever, but it was so fun. And then I do it all
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
And this cycle
But you
continued
truly
and
didn't
continued.
feel that way. Like
I
you
mean,
felt shame and you didn't know how to
yeah,
like you were like you didn't want to make fun of yourself. You didn't like
no,
everybody making fun of you. But you
no, but
played into it cuz quote unquote cool.
that is how I learned how to cope was drinking when I was in those situations and then also being self-deprecating. So like making fun
Yeah.
of myself before anyone else could
Yeah.
is what I how I coped with that, which actually is not a horrible coping mechanism. I mean, the whole self-deprecating part, right? Because that also takes the power away. Like if you kind of like make fun of yourself or you're just like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the other person doesn't have the power." Right? You kind of
Right.
are just like, "Oh yeah, make fun of me." But with someone who hates themselves for real, that's not good. So I like
Yeah.
hated myself. And so there's so much about alcohol that fuels that. So I would start all over again. I'd numb myself. I'd numb myself. So if you think about this for my entire life, when I found drinking in high school until I basically really cut down. I didn't stop completely, but cut down when I was like in 30 years old, like early 30s. That's almost 20 years of just coping with feeling
Yeah.
scared and sad and nervous around people and its situations for almost 20 years by using
Yeah.
drugs. And the fact of the matter is, if you don't have a healthy release of knowing how to handle certain situations like that, your brain is not going to know how to get out of it unless you actually use alcohol again and
Mhm.
again and again. So,
I was about to say, so what helped you?
yeah. Okay. So let's get to this.
I'm curious, like, how you went
Okay.
from. I know when you turned 30, you've talked about this on episode before, you had the biggest panic attack you've ever had. Did that
Yeah.
change your mindset?
100%. Also, I started seeing other people's actions
Okay.
and knowing that I didn't want to be like that. So believe it or not, there were people that were doing worse things than me, or feeling worse than I was, like about themselves or
Did you notice? Did you notice some of your friends like going deeper, meaning like it wasn't just alcohol, then they started doing drugs, and then they start like or like normalizing like things you're like, wait, that's not me.
yeah. So here's what's interesting, which I am so proud of for the fact of my core friends and the core people I hung out with. None of us ever touched drugs, ever. Not alcohol, but like
Like
street
Coke
drugs or
or
anything like
yeah.
that. Yeah. There was a lot of coke going around with other
Yeah.
people in the groups
That's what
that
I'm
we
saying.
knew.
Like you are almost so blessed because do you feel when you were at such a vulnerable state that you if someone said, "Come on, Allison, let's do it." Like all your close friends like, would you have done it?
Well, that's so interesting because there must have been a part of me that knew there was that anxious girl inside, like
Yeah.
really, really anxious because I never wanted to touch a drug. It scared me. It scared the hell out of me to do any drugs.
Okay.
So, like, almost like at that point, I didn't see alcohol as a drug,
Yeah.
even though it was.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
like when it
any
became like illegal, you're just like, "Oh, I know that that's bad."
never touched a drug, and none of like most of my friends never touched it. Maybe there were some people I knew that did coke.
Yeah.
But like I remember being at a party once and I saw coke like on the table and it freaked me the F out. I was like, you guys, we're getting out of here.
Yeah.
Ew. Like
Yeah.
this is disgusting. We did not want to be around that at all.
Yeah.
Um Anyway, so what helped me? Okay. So here's some of the things that helped me in the moments when I knew I was having this kind of like hangover feeling and still does now, right? But I don't drink really hardly anything as close, but it still kind of helps me when I'm quote unquote hungover. I don't even
How
know what to
did you
call it
make
because I
that
don't really.
switch though? Like, how did you go from the party girl to being okay with not being the party girl?
Okay. So that's what I'm going to talk about in like 5 minutes. I just want to give people a couple tips that actually are like healthier alcohol consumers as far as not blacking out and they know their limits, but they still have a feeling when they wake up, still like they don't feel like fully themselves. One thing I'm going to say before I get into like the real shift that I made is something that you're going to agree with, which is those like hydration drinks can really help.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They can help your brain, they can help your body. So I love sugar-free liquid IV. Element is good. There's other like hydration drinks now that they did not have back then, by the way. We would drink Gatorade and coconut water. That is what helped. And both those things actually Gatorade I'd stay
And
away
you
from because
probably
there's
weren't
sugar.
using those as chasers. Like, you weren't like, yeah, let's do a shot with a Gatorade. You were probably like, let's do a shot with Sprite or Coke. Or like now people are
Sprite
literally
or
using
Coke.
like,
We would do shots of vodka and tequila. We wouldn't be mixing it with anything.
no, 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 no.
Crying
Well,
out.
like you do the shot and you like take a chaser. But I feel like nowadays you see the generations being like so much smarter. They're drinking literally like liquid IV with their alcohol.
I know, I know. I mean, yes, totally. Making a mixer. No, we did not have that. But I will say, as things started progressing, like, and now in my life, even if I have like a glass of wine or two, I honestly, I drink liquid IV sugar free daily, even when I'm not hungover. It just feels good. It's just good vitamins, right? But coconut water can be really great too. So that
Yes.
helped as well, right? Replenishing like your electrolytes and your glucose levels. I mean, like, your brain is really low on like essential nutrients. You know what I mean? So, like, you
Mm-hmm.
really want to try and replenish a lot of that. So, some things, you'll hear people be like, oh my God, I need like greasy, breakfast food in order to like help themselves. I mean, that did help every now and then, but then it's like just was disgusting. Like, I would be so sick. I'd feel even worse. So like nourishing foods are more helpful, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
regulates your blood sugar, reduces like your mood swings and all of that stuff. So if you replenish your electrolytes and your glucose levels, that's why and they started having this like closer to like 2016 when I was like ending my kind of like my time as a partier, but they now have the people you can hire to get like IV drips in your
Yeah.
arms. We probably would have done that all the time if they had it back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, something like that can be really helpful. I think cold water is huge. So if you're in this state and really just feeling like you can't, you're just really debilitated, cold water is huge. If you are near the beach or you're near somewhere that has cold water, like the ocean or something, go in the ocean. I'm not even kidding. That was like one of the best things like I would ever do was like go in the ocean. We all know that cold water activates the vagus nerve too, so that can be really helpful to help reduce, panic sensations. But I also was in a place that like made me really happy when I was like such a party atmosphere and I was like I'm so happy here that like it just kind of made me happy being there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but those two things kind of like helped me. And this is all like physical stuff, right? I'm going to get to the cognitive piece. This is all stuff that I would do when I physically felt myself shaking because I was so hungover and stuff, right? But as far as like actually shifting from like being this party person, like you have to really commit to shifting your lifestyle. So, I talk so much about how creating your healing toolkit is kind of a lifestyle change, right? It's going to be something that you're going to incorporate, hopefully, whatever different tools or exercises or, relationships. There's a lot of things you're going to have to change in your life that will be for the better, but it might feel different because you don't know like who you are without this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows you as this party girl. Everyone knows you as this like person who loves to like drink and maybe be funny. And everyone, you have this like character. And everyone knows you as someone who doesn't really need to talk about much or whatever, doesn't need to go deep with feelings or anything because you just drink all the time. You don't
Mhm.
you don't have the need to do that. So that was like such a hard shift for me. I mean, I started knowing I had anxiety because I was actually physically getting sick and I was physically having panic attacks, which I started learning even before my 30th birthday. I just thought I was just like detoxing, which, yes, I was with my body because that's the chemicals in your body. But I also was having literally physical reaction to being hungover and being drunk all the time. And with my friends, I started hating it. I
Mm.
started hating it. I started not being able to keep up with people. I started really like getting scared of myself, kind of.
Yeah.
I got scared of my actions. That thing happened down the shore. And then I would get scared because I would be visiting a friend in New York. And then I'd maybe wake up and not know where I was. I mean, there's so many times I probably should have, like, a lot of my friends and I should have been like kidnapped or something. I mean, we
Yeah.
talk about it all the time and how blessed I am to be here because we made some really good choices as like partiers, but we also made a lot of really stupid choices. And so,
When you changed, did you start to lose friends?
yeah, but
Okay.
also sort
Should I
of
say
like I
air
didn't,
quote friends?
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think I wanted to lose them. I didn't want them in my
You were
life
over
anymore.
it.
I mean, you think about the story I told on the other episode about my 30th birthday,
Yes.
right?
So
And
were you
how
living alone when you made this
no,
change?
I had a roommate in the city who I actually loved, but she had a boyfriend. And then I had a couple other roommates. Some people left. And then I got other roommates, like from Craigslist. I remember that. So I was almost like living by myself until one of my friends actually moved in. And then she had a boyfriend. So we didn't hang out that much. But
So what did your nights turn into? What did you start doing to did you feel lonely?
honestly, I started really diving deep into like my career.
Okay, yeah.
So during my 20s and all this stuff, I was in grad school for psychology.
Mhm.
I started working at like a school. I wanted to be a school counselor, so I got certified in that. And I worked at schools. And that's another thing. I had summers off sometimes with my schools that I worked at. And then really in my 30s, I started focusing on really what I wanted out of my career. And I also moved out of the city. So I started recognizing that like whatever lifestyle I was doing was not working for me. And I also was in therapy. I mean, I was in therapy in my late 20s until now, and it was a couple different therapists. And I also found yoga. I started really just like doing things and making intentional choices outside of everybody saying, "Where do you want to go out tonight? What do you want to do tonight? Where's the party?" Like, what do you want to do? I just remember being really scared that I was going to like something was going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens if anyone, knows someone who is deep in alcohol dependency or drug dependency, they get to their rock bottom and they're like, something is going on and needs to change. And so my rock bottom were that 30th birthday, probably the year leading up to it of like when I made really bad choices or just unhealthy choices about men, about
Mhm.
my life, about food and everything. So, yeah, I mean, rock bottom, but I don't think everyone needs to get to rock bottom. I think now being able to have this movement of sobriety, which is amazing, and recognizing that there are other ways to like work through your challenges and the life adversities when you're feeling scared or worried or sad, the ability to know how to work through that, I hope, is more clear for people. Like there's more support out there, there's more people educating like us. But when it comes to this type of anxiety that's related to alcohol, alcohol is actually a depressant. Like from a
Mhm.
psychological perspective, it's a depressant because of what happens to you when you're withdrawing from it. it makes you, and alcohol and depression are very connected, right? So, you might have felt more of like this depressive response, anxiety, people feel more of an jittery, anxious response, but they're very much connected as far as the brain is concerned and the brain chemistry. So it's, I actually would love to hear more for you as far as being sober. Like, what do you do in certain moments when you are feeling anxious now, or like, or even like those depressed feelings? Like, what actually helps you? I know you probably talked a lot about this before, but I guess in the sense of like alcohol, or like even when you're around people with alcohol, because I'm just curious about your experience.
I think when I first started getting sober, I literally cut everybody off because I knew that I couldn't be sober around those people. Like I was just with really party friends. Like that was their life. Like it was like, okay, it's Thursday, it's time to go out, or okay, like they were just always going out. Everything they did was going out. So it's like I knew I couldn't do that anymore. And like, I am grateful for my husband, who at the time was my boyfriend. I feel like that helped me because I had someone. I think doing it alone, I think that's hard. I don't know. I don't know if I would have been able, because I was in college and I was about to start my master's. I don't know if I would have been able, like alone, to not get super depressed because there was so much growth in getting sober, and also, I was just having the worst time of my life with anxiety at that same time. So it was just really bad. And then once I came out of the anxiety and not having those panic attacks, I just so badly never wanted to go back to that place I was. So that was my motivator. It's like, I never want to feel like how I used to feel. Like that freaks me out. And I think the only way to not go back there is to never do it again. And so I remember just saying that to myself. And it's like, I like control. I like having control of my conscience. I like knowing I am making every decision, not some foreign object messing with my brain, making me do things that I don't even know if I would like, I wouldn't do sober. And I think that's the thing. I think I have to look at like a lot of the actions I made when I was drinking. And it's like, you would have never done that. Like in your sober mind, you wouldn't have done that. And so when I'm around people who do drink, I actually take pride in being sober. And I think once you embrace it and people are like, wait, you don't drink? They almost go, well, that's really cool. Like, and especially when you're someone who is fun and like not just a quote unquote like nerdy person or outcast person, whatever, like someone who is a fun person and it's like, yeah, I'm sober. I just really don't care to drink it. I don't need it in my life and that's fine. Literally, I was at a lunch today and one of the girls was like, I didn't know you were like that kind of sober. And I'm like, yeah, I literally haven't drank since I was 21. I I don't even think about it. Like I'm just the
Yeah.
sober person and people know me as that. And
Yes.
I think, yes, there is that moment of when you do become sober, you feel awkward, you feel like people aren't going to like you as much. But I really had to tell myself, like, I don't want to be friends with those people. If someone doesn't like me because I'm not drinking,
Right. Right. Yeah. No, same, same. And, I think that the people that I still have in my life that knew me then and know me now, we've sort of evolved together. And a lot of the
that's
people I hang
beautiful.
out with now also don't drink that much
Yeah.
either anymore. And so, I mean, I do want to say this disclaimer just to say that obviously sometimes it's really hard when you're younger to know, like, what is alcohol dependency versus someone who's just has a unhealthy relationship with alcohol,
Yeah.
right? Like, who is struggling with some type of addiction, and that is probably the hardest thing to figure out when someone's in college and even in your 20s, and it's so normalized to, like, binge drink and to
Yes.
just pick up and start drinking in the
Have you ever
morning and,
looked
like.
up the definition of binge drinking? Do you know it literally is like for a woman, I think more than just like 3 drinks is like categorized as
Yes.
considered binge drinking.
I know, isn't that crazy? Which
That's
is
so,
like
I remember, yeah, I remember figuring that out. I'm like, uh, then we all binge drinking.
100%. 100%. It's like, "Oh, okay, who actually made this definition?" But okay. But yeah, when you think about it, like, it's really hard because I think about now and I think about some of the guys and girls that were in not my friend group, but the people I knew, like, down the shore, and
They're
I
still
I
there.
And
They're
and
still
they
doing it. They're
not
stuck
even
and
not even are they still doing it, but some of them actually did have an addiction. And as they got into their 40s, like some of them have been to rehab and some of them have had to get some treatment for it. And, if they weren't maybe in that lifestyle or so normalized, maybe I'm not saying it's a disease, but I'm
yeah.
saying maybe we would have been able to say, okay, maybe we can help them instead of being like enabling them.
Mhm.
Right? And so that's just a slippery slope, I think, a little bit of being naive when you're in college and even in your 20s. I mean, your brain doesn't even fully develop until you're like 26. So you're still like a child. Your
Yeah.
brain's still developing. And if you're drinking that much, your brain is not developing in a healthy way. So I think, it's definitely a longer episode than I thought it was going to be, but I think it is going to really resonate with a lot of people. And I think when it comes to feeling anxious, like having anxiety, people kind of like maybe it's like this kitschy, funny term sometimes, but it really is real. And
It really is
there's
real.
so many layers that your body feels so anxious because you're in withdrawal, but there's so many things going on with your brain and so many emotions like shame and guilt that come along with that I think is just important to start talking about. So we got to keep this conversation going. And I hope that this was helpful for everybody watching and listening. And if you or anyone needs any support with any kind of recovery information or recovery resources, please DM us or email us at theanxietychicks@gmail.com. And I'll make sure to point you in the right direction and also help you if you just want a better relationship with alcohol. I think there's definitely a way to do it. And there's definitely a way to help yourself through certain moments that you feel like you can't get through without alcohol because I've lived it and I've done it. So thank you for listening to my story.
Yes.
Okay, one last thing I want to do, of course, is my healing tip of the week. So I want you to get, I want you to start becoming really clear about like what your relationship is like with alcohol. So maybe like think of the small moments that you can be aware when maybe alcohol was a little bit more powerful than you, or maybe that was what was making the choices. Like when you were drinking or making certain choices where you maybe sober would have, like you were saying, would have made like different choices. And maybe like notice how you feel before and notice how you feel after drinking. Even if you drink like once a week or whatever, just do that. And maybe it's not about like quitting cold turkey, right? I mean, maybe it is, which can be helpful, but maybe building kind of a connection between who you really are and why you feel like that's the way you go to cope when you're feeling uncomfortable or you're feeling sad or scared or being feelings versus like other healthier ways to cope. So maybe just like one day this week or in the near future, check in with yourself. Check in with those moments where you feel like you want to reach for a drink or that's like what's helping you, and maybe do some journaling before you pour the drink or before you do anything, and maybe just like have an alcohol free night, noticing what comes up for you when you're out with your friends or out with someone and you're not drinking. Like, what is that? What does that come up for you? And like kind of sit with that and see what that is. And so just get clear with like that awareness. All
I
right,
like
you
that tip.
guys, thanks for tuning in. We love you so much. And we'll be back next week.